You have a perfume you love. You've worn it for years. It became part of how you present yourself to the world, part of how people remember you. And then one day you spray it and something is different. Not dramatically wrong, just slightly off. Flatter, less complex. Missing something you can't quite name but definitely feel. You buy a new bottle thinking the old one went bad. The new bottle smells the same way. Your perfume didn't go bad. Your perfume was changed without anyone telling you, without anything on the label being different. Same name, same bottle, same price, different fragrance. And this has happened to more perfumes than most people realize. It's called reformulation, and it is one of the most quietly significant and least discussed realities of the modern perfume industry. A reformulation happens when the formula of an existing fragrance is changed after it has already been released. The scent is altered, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, while the name, the bottle, and the marketing remain identical. The brand rarely announces it. There is no label that says new formula, no press release, no apology. The fragrance simply appears on shelves smelling like a slightly different version of itself, and most people never know why. For the perfume houses, reformulation is often unavoidable. For the person who bought that fragrance because of exactly how it smelled, it is a quiet erasure, something they loved, gone, replaced by something similar that will never be quite the same. There are three main reasons a fragrance gets reformulated, and they are not equal. The first is we're doing regulation. There is an organization called the International Fragrance Association, IFRA, based in Brussels. It is the perfume industry's main regulatory body, and it publishes regular updates restricting or banning ingredients that have been identified as potentially harmful. Allergens, skin sensitizers, compounds with long-term toxicity concerns. These amendments are updated every few years. The most recent, the 51st Amendment, introduced restrictions on 47 fragrance ingredients and banned one entirely. Perfume houses that are IFRA members, which includes the vast majority of the global industry, are required to comply. This is where the story of Aventus becomes relevant. The original formula contained molecules called lyryl and lilial, synthetic compounds that gave the fragrance its radiant opening and extraordinary longevity. Both were banned. Both were replaced. The fragrance that people fell in love with in 2010 is chemically not available anymore. The second reason is ingredient availability. Natural ingredients, rose, absolute, oak moss, civet, ambergris, are subject to harvests, weather, political disruption, and supply chains. When an ingredient becomes scarce or impossibly expensive, perfumers are forced to find alternatives. Sometimes synthetic substitutes are close, sometimes they are not. The third reason is the one the industry speaks about least: cost. As a fragrance ages and continues selling, the pressure to reduce production cost increases. Cheaper synthetic alternatives replace natural ingredients. Concentrations are reduced. The formula is quietly adjusted downward, not because regulations required it, not because the ingredient disappeared, but because it is more profitable. The bottle stays the same. The price stays the same. Sometimes the price goes up. The fragrance becomes less. The list of iconic fragrances that have been reformulated is long enough to be uncomfortable. Chanel No. 5, one of the most recognized fragrances in history, has been reformulated multiple times. The restrictions on oak moss and other classic ingredients forced changes to a formula that had been essentially stable for decades. What you buy today is not what your grandmother wore. Guerlain's Mitsouko, considered by many perfumers to be one of the greatest fragrances ever created, was built on oak moss and natural peach aldehydes. Both are now heavily restricted. The current version exists, the original does not. Fahrenheit by Dior, Opium by Yves Saint Laurent, Shalimar by Guerlain, Rive Gauche by Saint Laurent. Each of these underwent changes that the people who loved them noticed immediately and mourned. There is an entire community of fragrance collectors who hunt for vintage bottles specifically because they know that what is inside them no longer exists in current production. Old bottles of discontinued formulas sell for hundreds, sometimes thousands, of dollars precisely because of what they contain and the knowledge that it cannot be recreated. If you have a fragrance you love, right now in its current form, the most useful thing you can know is that it may not always smell this way. IFRA amendments come regularly. Regulations tighten, ingredients get restricted, and every update means another round of reformulations across the industry, quietly without announcement. There are things you can do. If a fragrance matters to you, buy a backup bottle now while the current formula exists. Store it correctly, dark, cool, sealed, and it will last for years. Learn to recognize when a fragrance has been changed. Batch codes on the bottom of bottles can sometimes tell you when a fragrance was produced. The fragrance community has built detailed databases tracking exactly which batches correspond to which formulas. And when a fragrance you love starts smelling different, trust your nose. It's not your imagination. It's not the bottle going bad. Something was changed, and now you know why. There is something strange about the perfume industry that no other creative industry quite replicates. A film doesn't get re-edited after release without announcement. A piece of music doesn't get its instruments quietly replaced. A painting doesn't get repainted while hanging in a gallery. But a perfume, an object designed specifically to carry memory, to anchor emotion to a moment in time, can be reformulated into something different while keeping every word of its original name. Same soul claimed, different soul inside. The bottle promises continuity. The formula does not. And the only people who notice are the ones who loved it enough to know exactly how it should smell. If you want to understand everything happening inside the bottle you hold, subscribe to Invisible Sense, a new story every week.